Hey everyone, welcome back to the I Believe podcast. I'm Megan, and my guest today is Dr. Basil Williams. This is another episode of our new series, What's Up, Doc? Welcome, Dr. Williams.
Hi, Megan. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderfully. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. We're really excited to talk to you today. So, the first question I'm going to ask is just for you to give us a little bit about your backstory. Where did you grow up? What was your childhood like?
Yeah, so I was born in St. George's, Grenada, in the Caribbean. A lot of my family is from Jamaica and the Bahamas, etc. And then we ended up moving to New York when I was young. So I grew up in the Bronx. I'm the son of a Christian pastor and a public school teacher. My father and mother were fantastic and really kind of helped inspire me in many, many ways. And I'm the oldest of three. And even though I've lived in many places, New York is still in my heart as home.
What was it like to move to New York from the islands?
Yeah, so I suppose it was interesting in some ways. I was young enough that I don't remember a whole lot from the islands, but there's a huge Caribbean culture in New York. So I think there's a large part of the population that has made that move. Um, But obviously, the number one thing that stands out was the cold. I don't think that I ever fully adjusted to that. I still have island blood. I live in Miami now and I've lived here for some time. But even when it's warm outside, I'm still wearing a jacket. And so you can tell that certain parts of me never fully fit in and got used to New York.
I actually relate because I grew up in Phoenix and I'm kind of the same way. I like the heat. I think it's like in your blood.
Absolutely.
So, when did you know that you wanted to be a doctor?
So that's a really good question. I think when I was in the second grade, we had a science project to do, and I did a project on the eye. It was mostly tracing work, but I got a lot of positive feedback, and I don't know if it was actually the intellectual curiosity about the eye or the positive feedback about my artistic skills, which really did not translate into any sort of artistic skills moving on later in life. But at the time, they were pretty good, and so I think that's something that stuck out in my mind. But it wasn't until much later in life that I really got interested in medicine again, and that was actually kind of through happenstance, through the friend of one of my classmates in medical school, or her father, and that kind of helped guide me not only on the path to medicine, but also the path to ophthalmology.
And is there a certain moment or a person that you can think of that really inspired you to be a doctor?
Oh, 100%. So the doctor's name is Peter Liggett. He is a retina specialist and ocular oncologist. And so I ended up working in his practice, which was supposed to be for, a few weeks' time as a technician. And I had a couple of incredible experiences there, one of which was him interacting with a patient who had a large melanoma. She ended up having to get an enucleation. But I watched the dynamic and the interaction that he had with her. And it was one of the most powerful things that I've ever seen. He is just such a down to earth person, and the way he interacted, not only from the scientific perspective, but just kind of his handling of the social component, his empathy, his care, and seeing the way the family reacted to that was extremely powerful to me. And that kind of let me know that medicine was a path where I would potentially have an opportunity to have an impact. And so that really, really stuck with me. And actually to the point where I have a lot of his mannerisms and phrases that he used with patients. I still use it. And about a month ago, I had the fortune and opportunity to introduce him for a lecture at a meeting. And it was one of the coolest moments of my life, not only because he inspired me, but he also later on gave me many opportunities to develop my career and connected me with a number of people. And so I got to speak with his daughters and his wife to get more background information and pictures and try to embarrass him during the presentation. And it really was one of the coolest things I've had an opportunity to do in my career.
That's amazing. So, my next question was going to be how did you first get involved in treating ocular melanoma? But was it that because that he was treating ocular melanoma, right?
100%. So he kind of split his time between retina and oncology, and that was something that really inspired me. And so Partially because of that, I knew that those were the fields that I was going to go into, and so I do retina and ocular oncology as well. But also, when I went to Chicago for medical school, he helped connect me with someone else to do research. His name was Bill Mueller, and Dr. Mueller has also been a great advisor and mentor, and he had trained in retina and ocular oncology. At that point, during the summer between my first and second year of medical school, I ended up reaching out to a number of people about research opportunities. And Dr. Liggett ended up connecting me to Dr. Tim Murray, who was doing retina and ocular oncology at Bascom Palmer. So I did research with him. And later on, I ended up working with Tara McCannell doing research, and she did retina and ocular oncology. So it kind of seemed like no matter what I was interested in doing, the universe was telling me that that's the direction that I should take. And so, kind of because of my research path throughout that process, I should also mention Amy Scheffler was a fellow with Dr. Murray when I went down there, and she's been kind of a great inspiration too. Also, retina and ocular oncology. So I think it was just something that was supposed to be, and now I'm in my career doing that, and it was clear that that's the direction that I was supposed to move from a fulfillment standpoint.
Yeah, you really can't fight against that at that point.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, so what type of doctor are you?
Yeah, so I do vitreoretinal diseases and surgery, surgical retina, as well as ocular oncology. And so basically that means from medical retina with macular degeneration and diabetic retinopathy, all the way to retinal detachment surgery. And then on ocular oncology side, I do surface tumors, conjunctival tumors, as well as intraocular tumors as well. And that's both adult and pediatric.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit about the University of Miami where you're located. What do you guys offer?
Yeah. So I must say, University of Miami is a fantastic place. The Bascom Palmer Eye Institute is our department of ophthalmology. I was lucky enough to do research there, as I had mentioned, the summer between my first and second year of medical school. And I really wasn't well versed in the history of ophthalmology at that time. But when I went down there, they have this big sign that says the number one eye institute. And then you kind of see the years that the department, has been viewed in that way. And when I walked in the building, I kind of thought it was a really cool experience, and I really cherished every moment that I was there. They had so many phenomenal things. So, from a pathology perspective, they had all of the slides for every biopsy, every case that had been done since the hospital had opened, now over 60 years before. Dr. Murray was doing ocular oncology there. He was doing retinoblastoma. He was doing a lot of uveal melanoma. He had his own lab, and he was doing wonderful research there. And they had great collaborations with the university, with the Cancer Center for both adult and pediatric, Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Center. And so, really, that's the first time that I had seen anything like that because Dr. Liggett had worked in private practice and he was phenomenal, but I just didn't see kind of a multi institutional collaborative environment like that. And so during my residency, I had an opportunity to kind of get a better understanding of what was going on. At that time, Dr. Murray had moved on to private practice, and Dr. Bill Harbour had taken over the Ocular Oncology Service. And so I got to watch as the gene expression profile testing and PRAME testing was coming out and becoming more popular, and got to kind of learn over his shoulder, peeking at the things that he was doing. And so I was really fortunate to come back and join faculty at Bascom Palmer about 3 years ago, and really have just been excited and then overjoyed to be part of the tradition where I started my training process doing research. And so, from an offering standpoint, we have one of the largest ophthalmology departments in the country. And not only is that beneficial because there's a bunch of amazing, really talented and smart people, but because they cover so many aspects of ophthalmology, that you have a number of colleagues that you can collaborate with on care. The Cancer Center is also phenomenal. And so you're able to work with them on a lot of things. But the true core that runs through the Institute, and I know a lot of people say this, and it's probably true in a lot of places, but it is such a family environment. And I mean this throughout the institution. I know the people on the environmental services staff, and if I'm working late, they'll bring a cup of water to my office in the afternoon, all the way to the chair of the department and the head of the cancer center. And so I think in addition to kind of the scientific rigor and the clinical care that's state of the art, it really is that extra touch that makes it special for me and why I really love being there.
That's amazing. I mean, that sounds like a great place to work or to be a patient.
Yeah, I must admit that I don't know 100% what it's like from the patient experience side. But we did recently meet with some patients. There was a patient and caregiver meeting. We had an opportunity to talk to a lot of patients and we got some feedback. We heard a lot of the things that we're doing well. We also heard some ways that we can improve our process for patients. And so I think, we are really excited about making the patient experience even better. And so I think, continuing to get that feedback is actually valuable because there's no other way to improve without that. So I hope it's a great experience to be a patient. I hope it'll be even better. And no doubt about it, for me, it's an absolutely wonderful place to work.
That's fantastic. All right, so my next question is a little bit of a tough one. What do you believe makes a great doctor?
Yes. So I think it's actually a lot of the factors that I mentioned about the Institute. Uh, Number one, most important, the patient is a person, not a disease process. I think a lot of us are very, very educationally driven and intellectually stimulated by the cases that we see, and that's obviously important. But the person is the most important thing. And I say that's the case because no matter what recommendation you're going to have from a treatment perspective, no matter what conversation you're going to have about follow-ups and various other things, it all needs to be tailored to the patient, what their needs are, what their family structure is, what their dynamic is. I think when we think about cancer, sometimes it can be a scary word. Sometimes it can be a challenging and emotional situation. And so you want to diffuse as much of the emotional challenge that comes with the concept as possible. So that way you can actually have a meaningful interaction. So I think that probably is the number one thing. And then after that, you really want people who are um, driven by data, driven by research, making sure that you're giving the appropriate information. And I think as a field, we've come so far now that we actually have more data to be able to share versus 20, 30, 40 years ago. It was based predominantly on physician experience. So I think being scientifically in tune is also important. And then the clinical skills, I think it's the hardest for the patients to evaluate, but making sure that people have the skill set to do the procedure as well. And to be able to explain them well so that everybody is on the same page. And then that is all about being a great physician, but I do think there's one more subtle component that makes a huge difference. One of the reasons why I love, again, being at University of Miami is because it's not about me, it's about the entire team. You can only be as strong as the team that's providing care. So for cases that involve melanoma, my ability to do really good radiation is going to be based on the radiation oncologists. They have to be top of the line. They have to be amazing at their job. We have to be thinking about potential screening, and our medical oncologists need to be amazing. And so being able to work in a place where everyone on the team is trying to innovate constantly, and it's not just the ocular oncologists that are thinking about the data and thinking about the next steps in the future of care. It really is the entire team. So I think all four of those components are required in order to have an amazing physician.
That does sound amazing. So then my next question is a little similar, but if somebody comes to you and they're going to be your patient, what can they expect from you?
Yeah, so first, I want to get to know them a little bit. Unfortunately for them, I make some jokes. I'm not a very funny person, but I do try to lighten the experience. And so hopefully, we have an opportunity to actually connect as people. They will hear the data, they will hear the approaches and the options, and then we will hopefully together come to make a decision. We have a wonderful team, and so while I am always available to talk and reach out, we have an incredible nursing staff, clinical coordinator staff, and administrative staff that really do a wonderful job. So I want to make sure that our patients feel supported, not just by me, but by the entire team. And so I think that's what they're going to be getting, hopefully compassionate, well delivered, and educated care. And that involves navigating the tumor and everything associated with that, but hopefully it's more than just the scientific component.
And what is your overall approach to treating ocular melanoma?
Yeah, so I think that depends a little bit on the person and the situation. I think the number one thing that we always think about is life. So our goal is to focus on life first. The second, we love to salvage the eye, keep the eye, and have the eye in as good condition as possible. And we really, really care about the vision, obviously. Different people come in with tumors of different sizes in different locations. Their opportunity to have really, really good vision afterwards varies a lot by that. And so some of our understanding and how we approach things is going to be based on what the patient's needs are in life, but also trying to make sure that life is the number one priority and we all kind of share that goal and share that focus.
And when there are multiple treatment options, how do you guide patients through that decision, and what role do you believe patients should play in the decision-making process?
Yeah, well, I think patients should play a huge role. I mean, it's their eye. I always tell them they're the boss. It's my job to give them the information. And so I try and share the options that are available. Sometimes that means clinical trials that we don't actually have access to, but we do know other people in other places that have access. And so I try to lay the options that are reasonable on the table for them, and then help guide their decision. I always ask them what questions they have, and at that point try to see if there's anything that I can do to help in the decision making process. And some people say, you're my doctor, I trust you. Tell me what you would do for your mom and then do that for me. And then some people come in with a stack of articles and they're like, well, I read this, this, and this, and these are the things that I want. And as long as that makes sense for their eye and as long as it's not a dangerous or a challenging thing to do, then I think that's completely appropriate. So I think it should be a team decision, and that's the goal.
Awesome. And how do you work with other specialists to provide the best care? And what should patients know about being part of a multidisciplinary team?
Yes, absolutely. So, as an ocular oncologist, I think it's obviously important for us to understand and know not only about the conditions that we're treating, uveal melanoma, et cetera, but also about the rest of the eye. We're thinking about the retina, we're thinking about the optic nerve, we're thinking about the blood vessels, et cetera. But this really is something that we have to view the patient as a whole, as an entire person. So that means our medical oncologists are understanding and interpreting our biopsy results. We're having that conversation with the patient. We're referring to medical oncology. They're talking about systemic imaging, evaluation, potential clinical trials for adjuvant therapy, and that's something that should happen up front. When we're thinking about doing radiation, our radiation oncologists are meeting our patients beforehand. They're talking about the pros and cons of radiation. They're talking about their experience. They're saying hello when the patient comes in. So there's a number of factors that go along with that. Because I do surgical retina, if there's any sort of surgical things involving the retina afterwards, then I will participate in that. But we also have a number of other people in ophthalmology that help. One of the things that I really love, again, about being in a multidisciplinary field and an institution that provides that care, we're also thinking about the mental health of patients afterwards and what kind of challenges they're trying to navigate. We're thinking about the financial component that plays into this, and our social workers are looking at opportunities to connect people with foundations. We're thinking about the networking. This can be somewhat of an isolating disease because this is something that's so rare. Many people don't know one or two other people that have experienced ocular melanoma. And so to be able to connect them to organizations like yours and others that are able to help them kind of share that burden and get to know other people and get a better experience if that's something that they need. There's nutrition, exercise, acupuncture, and various other things. And so we really do try to work with our entire team to take care of a person as a whole.
I love everything you just said. So now, what advancements are most exciting to you right now?
Oh, there's so many things that are going on in the field. This is literally the best time to be in ocular oncology, and I think I'm benefiting from the work of a lot of previous ocular oncologists who have done amazing science and brought the field to where it is. Um,
Aura Biosciences is a clinical stage biotechnology company focused on developing precision therapies for solid tumors that aim to preserve organ function. Our lead candidate, Belsar, is currently in late stage development for primary choroidal melanoma and in early stage development in other ocular oncology indications and bladder cancer. Our mission is to grow as an innovative global oncology company that positively transforms the lives of patients. For more information, please visit us at aurabiosciences.com.
right now, molecular prognostication is in as good a place as it could be. So basically, by getting a sample of the tumor, we are able to understand the risk of metastasis in the future. This also gives us certain targets to try and aim for to treat metastasis if they do develop. And so that's something that's actually a meaningful change. For a long time, I would talk to people and they would say, well, why should I biopsy if there's nothing that we can do about it, if there's no information that we're giving, if there's no clinical trials that are available? So to be able to practice during that time is really, really exciting. But not only that, a number of people have been looking at liquid biopsy, basically meaning trying to identify non-invasive ways to get the information that our current biopsies give us. We're also using artificial intelligence to be able to look at images and have large language models decipher, or hopefully in the future, decipher some of our biggest challenges. So whether a tumor is low risk or high risk is obviously valuable. When we're on the border between a nevus or a melanoma, making sure we understand when a tumor is benign or malignant, that's something that's also really, really helpful. And not only does it make a difference from a clinical perspective, but it also helps the patients potentially by reducing the invasiveness of our procedures. We're in a place where we have a lot of new treatments that are being thought about and worked on, potentially to avoid some of the effects of radiation. We have that with clinical trials for small tumors. We have that with clinical trials for really large tumors. So we're trying to cover the entire spectrum. So I think the next 5 to 10 years in this field, it's going to dramatically change in such a positive way. And I'll give a shout out again to Dr. Harbour, who kind of ran the Ocular Oncology Service while he was here and while I was in training. He created the Collaborative Ocular Oncology Group, which now is about 30 or 30 more than 30 centers across the US and Canada, not only ocular oncologists, but medical oncologists there as well. So we can actually talk about where the science is and where we should move forward as a field. What kind of clinical trials should we be thinking about? How do we advance things? So I think it is a phenomenal opportunity for us as physicians to try and advance the field, but also if you're a patient, you're getting more information and there's more exciting things to come than have been there in the years past.
Amazing. It's so exciting.
It really is an exciting time. There's no and any student, resident, or fellow who rotates with me in clinic or the operating room, they can see how excited I am about it. And I think we're seeing across the country there's a number of ocular oncologists that are coming into the field because we have more to offer now.
Amazing. All right, we're going to shift a little into some personal questions now. My first one is, what keeps you going on the hard days?
Yeah, so I go back to Dr. Liggett and his interaction with that first patient. So she was 18, which is quite young to be diagnosed with uveal melanoma. And she was obviously concerned about a whole bunch of things at that time. But she was also thinking, well, if I get my eye removed, what am I going to look like? What is that going to mean as I interact with people in college, and how are they going to view me, et cetera? And that's something that really has kind of always stuck with me. So there are challenging times. There are times when you're dealing with the difficulties of cancer, and despite your best efforts, sometimes the cancer will do various things or cause various issues, and the relationships that you build with people, that will have an effect on you. It should have an effect on you because you really care. Um, but what drives me is, number one, the very next person that I'm going to see there. relying on me and our interaction to help and to provide care for them as well. And for every difficult situation, there are so many positive situations that help drive you forward. I also am a huge nerd and a loser when it comes to ocular oncology. I was very fortunate during my fellowships. I did fellowship in Philadelphia with Dr. Shields, and I got to see another couple in ocular oncology. And it just so happens that I met my wife during fellowship in Philadelphia, and she also does ocular oncology. And so our dinner conversations are very much based around ocular oncology things, which maybe is not the most entertaining for a lot of people. But for us, it really, really helps to drive us. And so I think actually a lot of the foundation of our relationship started in that world and helps drive both of us forward because we have a shoulder to lean on when things are difficult, but somebody else to inspire us as well.
And how has this work changed you as a person?
Yeah, I would say it's changed me a lot, but it's also something that I've been thinking about and growing with throughout my entire adult life. From having this be the first major job that I did after graduating college, working as a technician in a practice, and thinking about ocular oncology in this way. So, more than changed me, I think it's helped shape who I am as a person. I think it's helped shape the way I try to interact with people, the conversations that I have. I hope that I am a person that tries to limit the judgments that I make on people because you never know what's going on, and when you interact with people who are affected by uveal melanoma and you get to see what their lives are like outside of being a patient, you get to understand that this could be any person that you interact with in your daily life, and many of them have the appearance where you would never know there's anything going on with them, but they are navigating treatment, side effects, family dynamics, and other interactions. And obviously, there are many more things in life that happen besides dealing with cancer, and you kind of go through that journey with all of the people that you help care for. And so I try to have that be a part of my daily life when I'm interacting with people outside of work as well. And I think I get reminded of my failures on a regular basis and how I need to be a better person. And I think that's something that's incredibly grounding. So hopefully it continues to shape me to be a better person at work and outside of work. And I'm grateful that I have an opportunity to participate in this field.
And what have your patients taught you over the years?
um, there are so many lessons that I've learned. One of the coolest interactions I've had was with a kiddo who had a different condition. It wasn't melanoma related, but he had retinoblastoma. He ended up losing one eye, and he was struggling with recurrences in his only remaining eye. This kid had the most optimism, energy. His smile was amazing. He was the most fun to be around. And he really has been one of the most inspiring people to me over time. Eventually, he was cured. He's doing really well. And I still kind of keep tabs on him. But eventually, after his cure, he did a make a wish, and his big thing was he wanted to go to New York. And as a New Yorker, I'm really excited and I'm trying to tell him all the things that I think are going to be amazing and all the ways that he's going to enjoy himself. And he comes back from New York and I was like, so how was it? And he was like, you know, it was a nice city, but there's a lot of people there and the city can sometimes be very dirty. And I'm like thinking of all the amazing things, and it was just such like a practical answer, that it kind of helped me again remain grounded. I laughed for, oh man, I couldn't stop laughing, and he was like, I don't want to be offensive to your city or anything, and it just was one of those things where you get to see like humanity at its core. You get to see a person just kind of experiencing everyday life. And I'm thinking all this grand thing. Well, what New York is going to mean after, battling and beating your cancer. And he's like, parts of it are pretty dirty and it's pretty crowded. I'm like, okay, yes, that's true. So I try to take something away from all of my patients, and I try to be a constant learner. So I think I'm learning all the time.
Absolutely. And what does hope mean to you in your work?
Hope, I think, is the driving force behind what I do. It's my hope in our science, in our research, in our future. It's my hope in how we approach our interaction. It's my hope for our patients. It's my hope in my ability to do my job well, and to try to transmit that hopeful environment and infuse that to the people that we take care of and their family members, and try to make sure that our whole team is exuding that kind of hope as well. So I think it is a focus on the future, a focus on the positives, um, focus on the reality, and making sure that we're using research and the positives to help shape our reality. But yeah, I think that's kind of how I view hope.
What do you love doing outside of work?
So, I don't know if I love this, but this is something that I'm doing now. I'm working on languages. When I moved to Miami, I learned to speak Spanish, and I speak Spanish reasonably well. My wife is from Italy, and so her whole family speaks Italian as their primary language. And so I am working on speaking Italian, although that is very, very slowly coming along. I do like challenging myself, and so being able to speak a language and learn the culture, so that way when you visit the family, you understand it better and you have a more culturally rich experience, is definitely something that I do love. But perhaps how slow I am at it, and how it's a constant example of ways that I'm not succeeding, I perhaps don't love. I am very much a retired basketball player. I still love watching and playing basketball, especially right now that the Knicks are good again. It's been over 20 years since the Knicks have had a really, really exciting team. And so I am definitely a huge fan of that. And then from the simple things, I enjoy spending time with my wife doing almost anything that includes like very nerdy board games, to traveling to see either one of our families, to just enjoying the many things that Miami has to offer. So yeah, I enjoy a number of things outside of work, thankfully.
Awesome. How do you unwind after a long day?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I need to do is work out to some degree, whether that's walking, running, lifting, anything along those lines. And I think some of that, I was an athlete growing up, and so that was kind of a huge part of me to begin with. But I think that's even been more helpful as I've gotten into my career, to kind of make sure that I'm keeping myself fit and healthy and moving. I uh, did not do a great job of taking care of myself early in my career, especially during the pandemic. And so, as I give advice to my patients and the people that we take care of, and I'm like, wow, you should be eating well and you should be exercising, and feeling like a hypocrite inside, I've had the opportunity to kind of tackle that. And I think that's something that really, really helps me to kind of mentally and emotionally navigate the challenges of the day.
So, this might be a little redundant with that, but my next question was what's something that helps you reset when things feel overwhelming?
Yeah, so the other thing that I do, so first, very blessed to be in Miami. I can walk outside and be near the water at all times. Just sitting there and watching the water is one of the most powerful things in the world. I have no idea why water works on your emotions the way it does for me, but it is something special. The other thing that I love to do, as I've mentioned many times, I'm a huge nerd. I love to read. And so, whether that I kind of alternate between fiction and nonfiction, and that will transport me to a completely different place. And it allows me to have my brain turned off in certain ways. So I'm not stuck thinking about kind of the stress of everyday life, and I get to enjoy something or learn something. And that's extremely helpful for me.
What brings you the most joy outside of medicine?
Spending time with family and friends, the people who have been supportive from the beginning. I think it helps remind me not to take myself seriously. I have a number of people who do a great job at making fun of me, which I love and is extremely helpful. So that way I can leave work and not feel like I'm important in any way, and I can just kind of hang out and experience the everyday interactions of love and fun and friendship and family. And so I think that's critical.
Hmm. Who has had the biggest impact on your life?
Oh, I think that's an impossible question to answer. I think there are so many people that have shaped me in a number of ways. I think I'd probably have to say my father. And I think that's largely because people who see or interact with the two of us will immediately identify a lot of similarities that we have. I think he is the person that kind of instilled work ethic in me. He is the person that instilled my moral compass. As a pastor of a church, it was him who kind of helped set the guidelines for how I approach ethics. It was also him that when I was young and my friends were doing various things, and I'd be like, oh, I want to do this or that. And they were like, well, they don't live in this house and they don't have to follow these rules, but you do. And that really helped guide me, number one, not to compare myself with other people. And number two, to make sure that I hold myself accountable for my decisions and what I'm doing, regardless of what anyone else is doing. And I think that really laid the foundation for who I am.
And what does a perfect day look like for you?
So I think I'm actually really, really lucky from the perspective that I love doing so many things. So a perfect day, unfortunately, again, for my wife, I wake up super early, and that is during work week. That's on a Saturday or a Sunday. There's like no stopping it. So I'm like a dog on a Saturday morning that's like nudging, like I want to go play. So that can be getting up in the morning and working out before work, and then going into work, having a meaningful day of interactions, hopefully having some opportunities where you have a resident, a medical student, a fellow that's with you, and you get to teach and learn from them as well. I don't have children myself, and while the trainees are not my children in any ways, there are some dynamics that are similar. Watching them improve from a surgical perspective or clinically, really you get that kind of reward that you've been able to contribute something to their education and experience. So I think that's powerful. Um, I must admit that I don't have too many days where I finish work and I don't have a Zoom meeting or don't have a paper to write or don't have some other responsibility. But I think like just simply being able to sit out on the balcony outside of our apartment and be able to watch the water or just kind of enjoy how beautiful it is here in the wintertime also contributes to a perfect day. But I love that I never have a day that's the same because we do so many different things and our structure of our workday is so different. So I have lots of good days that are varied with their activities.
Love that. Okay, next we're going to go into our lightning round. So I'm just going to pepper you with some questions. So, first one, what is your go to Starbucks or any other place coffee order?
So I don't drink any caffeine. So I don't drink coffee, tea, anything. My go-to order is quite boring. It is just water.
Water. Got you. All right, morning person or night owl? I think we know.
Actually, both. I have so much energy in the morning, but I also like being up late.
Okay. And what is your favorite way to spend a day off?
Probably playing basketball, although I must admit that at my age, I am not convinced that's something I'm going to be able to do for much longer.
I understand. What is your favorite vacation spot?
Ooh, let me try not to get in trouble. So I will say Italy because I get to spend the time with the in-laws. Also, Italy is an amazing and beautiful country, and there's so many different things there. And we go often to visit the family, to visit my in-laws.
And good food, right?
Oh, the food is phenomenal. It's ridiculous. It's amazing.
Awesome. Okay, what's currently on your playlist, music wise?
Okay. I actually listen to a lot of podcasts, more so than music. When I'm listening to music, I'm more in like a Stevie Wonder, um, or kind of like old school jazz kind of vibes. That tends to be my baseline. But I'm listening to a lot of podcasts these days, and like I said, it's a lot around the NBA playoffs right now with the Knicks, but more varied between nerdy and fun outside of that.
Nice. All right, what's your favorite movie or TV show?
Favorite movie would either be The Shawshank Redemption or maybe The Blues Brothers. I love both of them. I don't watch much TV. And you see, I haven't watched very many recent movies, and my favorites are old. But I think I would go with those two.
I get it. What's a small thing that makes your day better?
Oh, the coolest thing of the day is we're at work, and the team will come around with these little culottes, which are like these little Cuban coffees. And even though I don't drink coffee, it's the experience. One person will buy it and they'll pour out a bunch of the little shots for everybody on the team, and you kind of huddle there together and talk for a few minutes, and then you go back in the room. And it's a moment of reset during the day where everybody that's been working really hard kind of comes together. And it's one of the coolest things. And that's what I mean about kind of that family environment, because it's always a different person who ends up buying it and kind of happens casually, but it's a shared responsibility to bring it back to the team. So I love those moments.
That sounds awesome.
Castle Biosciences is a proud sponsor of this I Believe podcast. Castle's innovative uveal melanoma tests provide valuable information about the risk of your eye cancer spreading to help you and your healthcare team individualize the management of your disease. To learn more, visit castlebiosciences.com.
All right,
Very
do
cool.
you have a favorite quote or mantra that you live by?
Um, Comparison is the thief of joy. I think that's something that I really try to live by. I try not to watch anyone else's lane. I try to celebrate other people as much as possible, and I try to focus on what I need to do for my life.
Wise words. What is the best advice you've ever received or given?
I know for sure the best advice is not something that I've given. So I think I've received a lot of phenomenal advice, and some of it is probably I think probably the best guidance um, is from Dr. Liggett. He would always say, "Better lucky than good," but the harder you work, the luckier you get. And so I think the first part is just kind of a little lighter in a way to deflect compliments, which I appreciate. But the second part is something that really stands out. So I think when you show up and you work hard and you really put your time and energy into it, I think that goes a long way.
Absolutely. And what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, believe that you're good enough. I think, for so long working in an institution where I work, where, it's highly ranked and there's a bunch of other really talented people there. And, I've trained under some phenomenal people with Dr. Harbour and Dr. Shields and others who have done so much for the field. There are times where I felt like, well, I've got to find a way to prove that I should be here or to believe that I'm good enough. And I kind of realized doing my best, taking care of patients well, doing my job and working hard, that is going to be good enough. And I think over time, working with people who, when I transitioned from being the trainee to being somebody who still looks up to people and gets advice all the time, but also have people coming to me for advice and mentorship and guidance. It's been really helpful to make that transition and see how people view me, and kind of help me think, I just need to do what I'm doing and not think about what I could or should or how I can prove myself, etc. So, yeah.
Very true. Do you have a hidden talent
I
or just
have
a
talent.
talent that would surprise us?
I don't know if I have talents that aren't hidden. Do I have a hidden talent? No,
Or
I
any
don't.
talent?
Um, well, I will tell you there is one thing that I have done that I think people probably don't think about. When I was growing up, my sister was very, very fast, probably faster than almost anyone around. Um, but she wasn't necessarily excited about running track. And in order to get her to run track, I did ballet with her for a little while when we were young. I have no dancing ability, especially not ballet currently, but that is a rare known fact about me.
Very nice. Um, if you could instantly master a new skill, what would it be? Speaking Italian?
Honestly, languages in general, we think if I could just like start learning a language, start trying, and then immediately learn, I think that's the coolest thing in the world. That's like your passport for the world, to be able to travel anywhere and speak not only and understand and communicate with people, but also as if you're from there. Oh man, that would be phenomenal.
I think I would pick that too. That would be amazing. So the next question is coffee or tea, and we already know the answer to this one is no, water. Do you have another beverage besides water that you enjoy?
I like occasionally drink wine. That's really about it. Um, a very, very boring beverage diet.
Very healthy beverage diet, though. All right, beach or mountains?
Beach. I
Beach.
live in Miami, so I have to say that.
Early mornings or late nights?
Yeah. Mornings, overnights, but both.
Okay. And sweet or salty?
Ooh, definitely salty. I don't have a sweet tooth.
Okay. And what's your favorite salty snack or treat?
My favorite that I'm not allowed to have are chicharrones. It's like the little pork rinds that are very common in Cuban culture. And so they're like everywhere. But I try not to open a bag because it becomes very dangerous at that point.
I understand. So that was our last question. You did amazing. Thank you so much for coming and spending time with us and just talking and sharing your heart and your passion with us. We truly, truly appreciate this.
Oh, Megan, I really appreciate it. I hope this is helpful. I'm not particularly good at talking about myself, but I'm happy to open up. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, we do so appreciate it. It's always hard to talk about yourself. I think everybody has a struggle with that. So, but this is so helpful for patients. If you are watching, please leave us a comment, please like and subscribe if you would like to see the next What's Up Doc video. They're going to be coming out sporadically throughout the year. We're going to try to get every doctor, as many as we can. So keep watching, subscribe, and then go to our website, acureinsight.org. There's a button at the top to subscribe to our newsletter. We send it out once a month, and it just lets you know what's going on, helps you stay up to date. We also send an occasional email here and there if it's something that's very timely, but we never spam you. And then join our Tuesday night Zoom groups. You can find that information on our social media as well as our website. It's every Tuesday night. You can get together with other OMIs. There's a room for regular and a room for metastatic, so you can choose which room you feel like that night. And then we have other things going on. We have events I believe is coming up this fall. It's going to be in Dallas. I'm going to talk to Dr. Williams. Maybe we can get a Miami, I believe, on the books, because that sounds amazing. Because I'm with you. I'm a beach person. I want to go get all those ions from the water. And yes, that I was with you on all of that. So maybe on Miami, I believe, could be in our future. If that sounds good to you, leave a comment, let us know. Or any other doctors you want to see featured, let us know who you want and we'll try to get them on here. So we're going to leave it there. But until next time, I hope everyone has a wonderful week and we will see you all next week.